Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for joining our Teach in the UK webinar through the High Potential Individual Visa. So Spencer and I are really excited to talk through the exciting opportunities which only in the past 12 months have become available for educators and people looking to make the journey onwards to the UK through this new HPI visa. So the goal for us today will be to introduce ANZ UK, introduce ourselves, hopefully learn a little bit about everyone on the call. We'll do a few polls and throw out to everyone for a couple of questions as we go. We'll obviously spend as much time as we can on the actual specific HPI visa and what that entails. But a big part as well will be obviously, talking about the exciting things about living and teaching and working in education over in the UK. So we'll do our utmost to make this a 45-minute webinar, and then we will allow for question time at the end. So if you do have any questions, everyone, just drop us a line. We are recording this, so you will be able to relive the magic at a later date. We'll share the slides. We've got lots of resources you can refer back to as well. So but ask questions as much as you like, post into the chat. You can take your camera off if you like and pop your face on and contribute in that way, or you can just simply type a message in the chat and Spencer and I will get back to you as we go. Perfect. So we'll do a little bit of an introduction. So Spencer, if you wanted to introduce yourself first, Matt, you're at the top. Go for.
For sure, yeah. So I'm Spencer. I am a Canadian trained educator. I have about 3 years with ANZ UK. So I moved to London about end of 2020, and I was teaching there for a little while, about a year and a half in a school in London. And then I jumped into the London office, working with ANZ UK, helping teachers in London find employees or employments. And then I just moved back to Canada recently, and I'm just kind of teaching at the moment, / also helping in the Canadian office and helping educators from all over North America go to either Australia or the UK.
Awesome, thanks, Spencer. So I was just letting in an extra educator into the call. So, and my name's Tyler. So I'm actually not in North America. I am calling in from our offices down in Australia, out of Melbourne. So we'll obviously talk a little bit about ANZ UK and the other global opportunities available. But my role at ANZ UK, I'm our UK overseas recruitment team leader, and I support educators in the team helping the journey onwards to the UK from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America. Obviously, I know there'll definitely be a few Americans on the call, and that's really exciting journey for everyone to look forward to, something that Spencer and I have done. I lived in the UK from 2016 to 2020, and originally a teacher as well, so not too dissimilar to Spencer. And I had an amazing time living and teaching over in the UK. I personally, similar to Spencer again, lived in London my whole time, but we'll talk about where else you can live in the UK, and it's a really exciting journey ahead. So I moved home in 2020, and pretty much since then I've been playing this role on the team, supporting educators moving to the UK. So we will continue to move through. We do have a poll that we will throw to, if everyone wants to jump in it though, just before we talk a little bit more about an introduction to ANZ UK. So we'd just love to know where everyone on the webinar is tuning in from. So I've just posted a question into the chat. If everyone just wanted to reply where you currently are. So I'll kick it off and go Melbourne, Australia. But if everyone wanted to post into the chat, that would be awesome, just so we can know where everyone else is. Nice, thank you, Kimberly. Long Beach, California, beautiful spot. Pennsylvania, New York, great, awesome. Thank you, everyone. To New York, awesome. Really good. And then Mississippi as well came through a direct message. So great. Well, awesome to see a lot of different parts of America tuning into this call. So an introduction to ANZ UK and who we are. So we are a global education recruitment company, and we have 29 offices globally across the world, in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and also in the USA, and then of course over in the UK. Over the past 16 years, we've been supporting educators travel globally to work across multiple geographies and have a new exciting teaching experience in those geographies. And on top of that, helping educators locally to support work who may be from the country where we already operate in. So, but a big part about what we're about is helping people move abroad and relocate to other parts of the world and have some new adventures. So across the USA, we trade under Scoot Education. So the same ANZ UK company, same family, but we trade under different names. So we might be able to support with work locally, perhaps. For some people, obviously on the call, most people on the call are from America. So if you're looking for some sub-teaching in the States prior to your journey to the UK, we might be able to hopefully help, or on the flip side back. And there are opportunities down in Australia as well. And I'm pretty sure New Zealand too. Actually, I blanked on the USA to New Zealand visa, but I know there's a working holiday visa available for USA citizens to go to Australia too, which Spencer can assist with. And the UK. So we'll talk about in this webinar the opportunities in London, Surrey, Bristol, and then in Wales, and across the regional UK too, with ANZ UK, and then talk about the support that we offer across that entire journey as well. So the next slide is, so ANZ UK, so we're very much a values-driven agency, and we're very much aligned to those values, and we live and breathe them in everything we do. So the values that we hold dear to our hearts are be great on the far left of the screen, and we really embody this in everything that we do, ranging from belief, equity, growth. Relationships is a big part about ANZ UK, and we really want to develop a relationship with everyone on the call individually, knowing that everyone's preferences are going to be different, and everyone's times are going to be different when you want to go. And we also provide exceptional experience in education, and want to make sure we put the right educator in the right place at the right time. So looking for you to have a role in the US, in the UK, we're hoping that's going to be the right role for you, that will really thrill you and give you lots to look forward to for your journey over and working abroad. So just as another question, I'm just going to throw to a poll as well again. We're just keen to know what everyone's background is within education. So obviously Spencer and I, we are both trained teachers, but we'd love to know if everyone else, what their background is in the education space. The beauty of the HPI visa, which we'll talk about, you don't need to have experience in education, and working in UK schools and early childhood settings, you don't need to have experience either. So if someone might have a law degree, a psychology degree, business, whatever it is, you can still stay on the whole webinar and we can talk about how you can get work in the UK. But everyone's just background experience, whether you're a teacher, a graduate, or if everyone's got no experience as well, that's totally fine. Great, thank you. Couple primary teachers, or elementary teachers. In the UK and in Australia we do say primary, but I know in the USA I forget that it is elementary. Nice, great, thank you everyone. So mostly primary teachers.
Amazing.
Which is, yeah, that's really good. That so gives us a good insight when we're talking about a few later slides what type of opportunities are available. So great. Well, Spencer, you'll just run through obviously a bit of an introduction there to ANZ UK, but now we'll sort of talk a bit about like what the process could look like for everyone, potentially from this point onwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a lot to go into it to move abroad. There's lots that, Tyler and I both have been through it, where you uproot your life in one spot and you go all the way across the world. But we try to break it down as quickly and as easily as we possibly can. So there will be like an initial call with myself, and we kind of go through a little bit about your own personal steps and your own personal growth, what you're looking for, and how ANZ UK can support you. So we start from the beginning. We also then will link you up with a consultant in the UK, depending on where you want to go, whatever office you're looking for, who can help you with that support. So obviously, when it comes to finding a place to live and the right roles, the right jobs, the people on the ground in the UK are the ones that they're best to be talking to. So we have support here on North America, and then we have support from the UK side as well. The UK side will help a lot with your compliance, which is basically just your paperwork, your police checks, everything you need to get started with work. So the UK offices, depending on where you go, will be the ones that can support you with that. So you don't have to worry too much about doing that on your own. We have a couple in our offices, Freya in London. She's incredible, and she'll be able to be hands-on with you and help you with that. Once you've done that part, your consultant will then also do a registration, which is just kind of like walking you through the ins and outs of the UK education system and what you can be expected of as a teacher, as well as like some of like little bit of rules, right? right? We as teachers have to follow lots of rules, and there's lots of regulations. And so the UK offices will help you with that with the registration. And once you're done all that, you're cleared for work and you're ready for the classroom. So we try to make it as easy as we can as far as like the actual compliance and getting ready for work. And as well along those ways, there's going to be lots of information coming your way of, what bank accounts and phone numbers and things to sign up with, just to make it as easy as possible. But that is a kind of a simple way of laying out what your process or your journey would look like.
100%. And the exciting thing is obviously ending up in the classroom is, one of the huge support mechanisms that we play. But as we'll talk about later in the webinar, there's so many other things which ANZ UK we can offer in terms of support, from, little things like opening a bank account to the visa application to where to live, area guides. And a lot of people have different reasons why they want to move overseas. Someone on the call might be thinking, I want to career development might be the reason why I want to move, or someone else might be personal experience, or so life experience or personal growth. So we know that everyone's going to have different drivers and different motivators, but at the end of the day, we want to support you so that you get into the classroom and you're really having a great time working out in education over in the UK. So but nice. And then when can people go, Spencer? That's the question, isn't it? So like obviously the UK academic year is a wee bit different to others, but it's got a good similarities to the USA. I know that much.
Yeah, so it's similar in the sense of, but when it starts, I guess some parts of the US start more in August, some parts start in September. Us up here in Canada, we start in September, so it's kind of a similar start date. They do end a little later than we do. They end at like the end of July, but you have like little longer breaks in between. So they have 3 terms, and in between those 3 terms, there'll be either 1 week or 2 week break. So while there's these terms, they go 6 weeks on, and then you'll have a 1 week break, and then you'll do it another 6 weeks, and then you have a 2 week break. So it's kind of broken up that way. Now, as far as when can you go, it's kind of whenever you want to go. That's one of the best things I found with teaching with ANZ UK was it's a create your own journey. When do you want to go? We have so much work available for you. We can support your move. Obviously, the times of getting the visas sorted and the visas approved, that changes things for you, of the date you can officially leave and get to the UK. But that kind of gives you a good glimpse of what the term dates are. You obviously don't want to go right in the middle of their summer break, so August isn't the best time to be going. But September through April through May, you've got lots of work coming your way. So those are kind of the term dates. And I know it's different than the Australian. There's a few on this call who were on the Australian webinar last night. So Australia has flipped to us. They go, January to November. We in the UK go September to July.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one takeaway with the term dates, Spencer mentioned then as well, would be if you're looking to arrive at the start of the term, like if you're wanting like a contract role, and you're wanting to start like, ongoing in a specific school, then the best recommendation would be trying to arrive towards the start of the term as well, just so you're available to start off that new term in the UK. So it might be like if you wanted to come after the Christmas break as an example, and then you want to be starting in an ongoing role for January, then, you're looking to get there for the 8th would be the best recommendation. But if you're wanting to do a bit of casual work, wanted to, not necessarily be locked into or set into the one classroom, just pick the date really, and then we'll obviously just make it work and support that that transition. And a nice poll we're going to throw to as well, just probably go to the next slide, which we'll jump into the visas and going through some other visa options, but then also the HPI visa. We'd love to know when everyone is looking to go. If you're not sure, that's fine. You could just write not sure. But if you've got a bit of an idea, just feel free to post again into the chat when everyone is looking to make the journey onwards to the UK.
And while everybody's posting, I'm just going to mention really quick that the best thing that I found with the UK is because you are so close to everything, so close to Europe during those term breaks, end of October, December, January, and February, when you have those little breaks, that's when you're going to be doing most of your travel. So that's when I was going to Athens and Barcelona and going through Italy, where those term breaks, it's the best time to be doing it. You don't get as many like long-term or long weekends, like 3-day weekends as we do here in North America. You get those 1 or 2 week breaks, which is really great because you can do a full-on trip.
Awesome. And we've got a bit of a mix there. So a few not sure, which is totally understandable. There's a lot to think about for the move. And then September and then in the fall. Great. Thank you, everyone. Cool. We'll keep moving through to the visas.
Perfect. Well, so there's a couple different visas other than this HPI visa that we will talk about in the next slide. There is something called the Youth Mobility Visa. That's going to be a little bit more for our Canadian HPI or our Canadians, Australian and New Zealand's. There's the Youth Mobility Visa, which allows 2 years, and you can go and teach in a school setting. Now, with the Youth Mobility Visa, you are going to be limited to just teaching, but it is a good option. That's the visa I went over with, and a few of my friends went over on. So if you are a Canadian citizen with a Canadian passport or an Australian, New Zealand passport, you can qualify for the Youth Mobility Visa. There's also the skilled workers visas. They're a little bit harder to get. You just have to have an actual school lined up for, but we do have people in the UK that are on the ground really ready to help you find those visas if that's something that you would like to do. They last a little longer, that 3 years versus the 2 years. There are also like the ancestry and other visa options. Ancestry is if you have a British passport, so a little harder, but the HPI is kind of why we're here. So I think, Tyler, let's just hit that one.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Awesome. So the HPI visa. So obviously everyone's heard of it because I know you signed up to the webinar, which is really, really good. But it is a new visa. So essentially, it got released last year by the UK government. So the sort of idea of it is to attract, in the words of how it's been announced, like the best and brightest across the world to be able to relocate to the UK. And the definition of that is essentially from the top universities, and that's how the UK government has framed that. So essentially, what it is, it gives you permission to stay in the UK for at least 2 years, and to apply you must have been awarded a qualification by an eligible university, which we'll go through in the next slide or the one after, and that will talk about which universities that if you graduated in the past 5 years, you can then apply for this HPI visa. And essentially you need to have a bachelor degree or a postgraduate degree, and we'll talk about how your qualification gets recognised in the next slide. But those are the 2 degrees, so those are the most important. And then if you do have a PhD or a doctorate, then you can apply for a 3-year HPI visa. There is an extra cost for the extra year, and we'll go through the costs in the next couple of slides as well. But essentially, past 5 years, bachelor and postgrad, then you can move onwards to the UK. So definitely feel free to spread the word about this. I know we've got about 5 of us on the webinar, which is really exciting. So feel free after this call to talk about this visa, and hopefully ANZ UK as well on top of that. And then we're more than happy to have Spencer and our team assist with any of the follow-up. So, but yeah, let's get a bit more into the visa itself. So yeah, on this slide, so if anyone on the call graduated from any one of these universities, whether it be obviously the American or the USA list here, and then the Canadian list here, you can see that it's heavily weighted to the USA. There's about 50 universities on this list. So every year, so it's 2022, 2021, 2020, there's a whole list that gets released, which is available online. But this is the consolidated list, and the USA makes up nearly half of those universities. So it is a really good opportunity for educators and people from the States who don't have that working holiday visa available to them because, for whatever reason, that just isn't set up between the UK and the USA. So this HPI visa is that clear pathway to make that journey to the UK, which hasn't necessarily been an option, or this having to go through the skilled worker visa. It is a little bit more difficult. So hopefully everyone on this call has graduated from that list. We're pretty confident because obviously when we sent out the communication, you would have put the fingers crossed have come from these universities. So we won't go list them all. They're all here. But yeah, if you know someone who went to Yale as an example and they're not on the call, make sure you can send them the webinar recording after as well. Nice. So from this list in the past 5 years is the biggest takeaway. So there is a bit to go into the application process itself, but we've really tried to condense as much as possible into this next couple slides, just so you have a really high level understanding of it. But fundamentally, the slide here, that the university degree is the most important one. If you've graduated, you pretty much should be completely fine to go through the process. But essentially what there is, you need to have a passport to provide to the UK government when you go through the application process, and proof of your knowledge of English. But if you're a USA citizen, assuming most people on the call may be, unless you're an international student, then you will need, so if you are a USA citizen, you won't need to provide the proof of language. But if you aren't, then you may need to, but we can assist you with the list of countries that may need to do that. And then essentially ECTIS is in terms like the gatekeeper, if you would, of this whole process. So we need to support yourself in submitting your qualifications through Ectus, which is an online platform. I'll actually send the link to Ectus just into the chat as well, so everyone can jump onto it too. You can just have a look on the website. I'll also, just whilst I'm sharing some links, just share through a link for the HPI visa itself on the UK Gov website. We've got a good blog as well on this too, which consolidates it even more. But essentially, you can read through and go through and have a look on the website for your own insight just after the webinar. But we won't go through every single check because there is a lot. So we don't want to bore everyone because we want everyone to stay engaged and learn about the fun stuff about the UK. And then the costs, essentially. So this is a bit of a breakdown of the different scaffolds of the cost. So the go through Ectus, it costs £210 to apply for the Ectus qualification check. And then you have to pay an application fee of about £715. And then you have to pay for this healthcare levy surcharge. And it might seem like, that's a bit of money to pass over for a visa. But essentially what this does, it gives you full healthcare access to the NHS, which is the National Healthcare Service over in the UK. So when you're in the UK, you don't need to get private health insurance if you don't want to. You are covered by the NHS. So you can look at this cost here. This is essentially going to cover your healthcare expenses for the 2 years whilst you're in the UK. And I'm not sure what everyone healthcare provider is in the USA, but I know that this might actually be cheaper than what you could be paying comparatively into the States as well. So it is something to consider that, whilst the visa might be, that's a bit to pass away with, you do get that NHS cover when you're there. Kimberly, you've got your hand up, a question, I hope.
Yeah, so with my question's about the healthcare then. So with the visa, it's a minimum or at least 2 years. What if I'm not interested in staying the 2 years? And then would I still have to pay the total cost of that surcharge for the 2 years?
Yeah, so you do need to pay the 2 years. Yeah, so it is a minimum 2-year visa. So there's not it's similar to the working holiday visa as well. There's not at least from my understanding, unless we've misread that, I'm almost certain that there's you have to pay for the 2. So that means you've got the healthcare available for the 2 years. If you do decide you only want to go for the 1 year, it is unfortunate that there's not a refund process for the visa or for that healthcare surcharge. So Kimberly, you might find when you're there for the 1 year that you love it too. A lot of people do go over with a plan to go for 6 or 12 months, end up staying. Like I personally went for, I had a plan to go for about 1 or 2 years, didn't really have a return ticket, end up staying for 4.5 years because absolutely loved it. So might not be the case for you and it might not be an option, but yeah, it is that 2 years of the visa cost.
Got it. Thank you.
No worries, but great question though. Really good question. Okay, cool. We'll just continue. Well, just before we just jump on, does anyone else have any other questions on the HPI visa? Because the next few slides will talk about work available, living in the UK a little bit, go into a bit more detail about ANZ UK and how we can support your journey. But yeah, does anyone else have any questions on the HPI visa before we move on? Perfect. All good. Well, if you do, just post into the chat. And as mentioned, the resources I shared give you all the insights into that one, into the HPI visa. So, but yeah, Spencer, talk through the next few slides, mate, if we could.
Yeah, perfect. So there's lots of different options once you get to London. There's or anywhere in the UK. There's day-to-day supply, there's long-term contracts, and then there's permanent contracts. So day-to-day supply is just substitute teaching or supply work, casual relief teaching, like what they call it in Australia. And there's just so much options there. There are contracts there for guaranteeing those 5 days a week, if that's what you want to do. So before you even get there, you have that job security. Even though it is day-to-day supply, you can be guaranteed the 5 days. We do have an app called the Ready to Work app, and it's really great. You can just kind of set your availability, and for the most part, people try to book you in advance and not just try to call you at 7 a.m. in the morning. I know that most of us don't like to. I didn't love having to wake up at 7 a.m. and wait for a call, so they try to book you in advance by using that app and trying to make sure that all availability is taken care of. We have lots of relationships with lots of different schools, so there's lots of different opportunities for different roles and different supply days with different kinds of schools. We do have long-term contracts as well, and the pay scale does go up, right? So you do make a little bit more if you take a long-term contract. Some people decide to take a long-term contract before they even get to the UK. Some start day-to-day supply and then go into a long-term contract. That's what I did. I started day-to-day supply, kind of worked around different opportunities at different schools. And then I found a school I loved and I took a long-term contract. It took me about 3 weeks to find that. Just mainly because the pay scale did go up, and London is, you want to have as much fun as you can. So that pay scale was nice. But it's up to everybody individually. Some of my friends stayed day-to-day supply and some took long-term contracts before they get there. So there's those two different options. And then there are permanent contracts that help you kind of stay in the country a little bit long term. So like Tyler was saying, he stayed for 4 years, which obviously goes beyond that 2 or 3 year visa. There are opportunities from schools that can sponsor your visas, and you can stay long term if that's what you'd like as well.
Awesome, mate.
Perfect. And so there's lots of different types of schools in the UK. They do things a little differently than we do here in North America. So there's academies, which are like, they're more the private schools. They're more like, you know, posh and higher end. They have PRU schools, which are called the pupil referral units. That's where the school I worked in. It's for kids who've been permanently expelled from mainstream schools. So behavior is quite intense. You know, I would have to metal detect them before they came into my class, and it was, you know, it was high intense behaviors, but it was something that I added to my CV so that when I came home, I can, you know, apply for a master's degree in educational psychology. So there's something like that. There's SEN, which is the special needs. I noticed that somebody in the chat mentioned that they do have some special needs experience. So we do have schools, relationships with schools for students with special needs. Here in Canada, and for most part in the United States, from what I understand, we do inclusive education. So there's going to be, you know, students in every single classroom that have different individual educational plans. And so you kind of have to differentiate for that as a teacher. In the UK, they actually do separate, they do exclusive education. So there's more classrooms and schools for special needs students rather than having students in each classroom that have special needs. We have lots of opportunities with nurseries. So if you're looking for our early childhood education, lots of opportunities there. Co-ed and single sex schools. You know, if you're looking for like a female PE teacher role, awesome. There's so many available for you. If you're looking for, you know, an all male school as well, that's awesome. And then there's, you know, faith schools that is pretty big in the UK. There's lots of opportunities there as well. If you're looking to stay in like a Catholic school system, lots of opportunities for faith schools as well.
Awesome. And you can see here, and even like back on the previous slide as well, just in terms of like how there are a lot of different options available. So I know there's mostly primary teachers on the call too. So, you know, it might be like really trying to hone in like what sort of year groups as well you want to teach in, whether it's that we don't have the breakdown of the key stages in this webinar, but in the UK, the education curriculum is broken into different key stages. So you got early years foundation stage, which is the younger students under the age of 5. And then you got key stage 1 and 2, which breaks up primary school. So for us, you know, if you're looking for casual work in that key stage 2, you like the upper primary, that's definitely something which we can focus on. And then it's all about, like I said, finding that right role for you, knowing it's going to be different. And you know, maybe you might want to have a role before you get there and you want to do like an online interview before you arrive, or maybe you do want to wait till you get there and you can do an in-person interview too. So yeah, the big thing for us is just, yeah, really Spencer and our UK team and our consultants getting to know you, getting your CV updated, giving you advice and support on that, and then making that transition, you know, at the right time for you. So but great. And then
and that's sorry Tyler, just like I kind of missed this part, but the thing that I loved about ANZUK, the reason why I signed up with ANZUK was just the fact that I knew that I had 5 days a week guaranteed before I even walked over to this, before I even got to the country, but I didn't have to sign up for a long-term contract. Some people that just is a little bit hesitant for them, right? Like they've never seen the admin, they've never met the principal. So it's cause for concern, but it just meant that I was able to go over there and I was actually able to meet the schools, which is something that ANZUK is pretty unique on. You're guaranteed work, you've got the job security, now go find the right role, which is something that we definitely offer.
100%. It's good that the option for both as well. And that casual work's great. Like I actually started off doing casual work myself and ended up doing a week in a school. And that school needed someone to stay on for a second week. It's actually the pupil referral unit similar to Spencer, and then ended up teaching at that same school for 9 months, but went over looking to do casual. So yeah, the options, when you get there, you might find that it's the first day in a school and you love it, or you might go to 10 different schools in the first month and it's the 10th school that you want to work at ongoing. So yeah, both are really good pathways. And And what we can obviously offer as well is support with the relocation from a bonus perspective too. So essentially through the guaranteed work scheme, which we spoke about as an ANZ UK ambassador, you're eligible for up to £250 off your flights up to £250 off your flights once you've completed a term with ANZ UK. And that would be for the ambassador agreement. And then if you're looking for a longer term role, which we spoke about, if you do want that contract before you go, which is another opportunity, another pathway, it's up to £500, which essentially will help recoup part of the visa cost, is a big part of it. And they're both tax free too. So you don't have to pay tax on this. So as soon as you've ticked over that term of work, it's actually 60 days, then we pay that out to you as well. And it's essentially comes off your flight receipt. So we just need to get a copy of your flight receipt too. And there's some cool photos of obviously some people having some fun across Europe. So a big difference between the snow and then obviously I think that might be in Croatia and then the Alps. So amazing. So cool. Community and events. So a huge part of ANZ UK is the community event. So we're very much, as we mentioned before, relationships and a relationships driven agency. So in terms of the events and the flow of it, what we would usually love to do is invite everyone to one of our offices, whether it be in Australia or New Zealand or in Canada, if it's where our team are based. And that would be to meet people before you move over to the UK. Unfortunately, how we got it set up currently, we don't do these events in the States, but if the stars aligned and you happen to be in Canada when we're hosting one, then you'd be more than welcome to come along. However, it may be that connecting with educators in our Facebook group, which we have set up so people can network out who can't come to these pre-departure events, to meet people if you're traveling solo. And then the goal would be that you then arrive into the UK and then we host welcome events across the year, at least 3 times a year. And then we do small little induction sessions as well to give you introductions to working in the UK. But these are really, really fun ways to meet people from all parts all over the world who have just relocated to the UK. And most people do go over by themselves. I think it's about 60 to 70% of people we support, they are doing it solo. So you might have a few friends who are looking to make the journey, but if you are thinking, I don't know anyone, then there are a lot of other people in that boat as well. So it's a really big part about what we're about, is creating those social networks. So make sure you come along to these. They are good fun, and it will be there not too long after you've landed, because we host them across the year. Going away with ANZ UK. So obviously, as an agency who we do support educators traveling globally, it would make sense for us to have a lot of opportunities to win some prizes for taking some really cool photos when you're traveling. So we got this fun competition that we're running this year, and it's called Going Away with ANZ UK. So if you've landed in the UK, you've just touched down in Bristol, or you've just touched down in London, whatever it is, and you want to take a photo and hashtag Going Away with ANZ UK, you go in a draw to win some really fun prizes. So anyone under the age, I think Kentucky's age is under 35, we've got a 5% discount code as well. But we give away Airbnb vouchers, Kentucky vouchers at the end of every month for the best photos. This is a photoshopped one. We don't have, we probably should put a real image in here, but this is a bit of a Photoshop one. But essentially, if you've got any great flicks, whether you're in a boat in Greece, whether you're in a bar in Berlin, or you're trekking in Trolltunga in Norway, whatever you're doing, this is a nice fun way to do it. Just hashtag Going Away with ANZ UK. So we're getting towards the back end of the webinar here, everyone. We might even actually finish a wee bit early here, Spencer, which is
we're going pretty quick.
Yeah, which is almost too efficient from us. So in a good way. So the compliance requirements. So obviously some really important steps for everyone to make sure they're across.
Right. Yeah. So the compliance, like we talked about before, the people in the UK will help you with your compliance. So like it won't be something that's just all on you. They'll ask for these things individually, but they will need an updated copy of your resume or CV. I will also ask for that when I first get in contact with you, just for your profile. It's not that we always just send that out to schools right away, but we just need that for your profile, along with a photo. So usually when you do a registration with somebody from ANZ UK, they'll take a photo, and then they will need like a copy of your passport or a picture of your passport or some kind of form of government ID, just a background check. And then the references, we need 2 professional references that cover the last 24 months. So the UK is a little bit more strict when it comes to like their background checks. In order to get a DBS, you do need to be able to provide proof of what you've been doing for the last 24 months, especially if it's been working with children. So any kind of teaching role, or even if you've been volunteering with anything that has children in it, like the Special Olympics or anything like that, you would need to just kind of provide a reference to that. And then our compliance team in the UK check that to make sure. Then there's also the police record checks. They call them the DBS check in the UK. It's £45, but it's also covered part of it of the ANZUK registration, which I can explain to you on our calls. And then that just goes towards it's a 12-month police record check that is done while the UK office will take care of it. You don't actually have to be in the UK when you do it, so you can have it done before you get there and you're ready to teach before you even arrive. Now, it seems like there's a lot with compliance. Basically, what you'll end up having to do is just respond to emails. Our compliance teams are always really, really great. When I was going over, they're very responsive, and you can just kind of respond to their emails. They'll ask for certain documents, and then you just kind of have to reply back to them, and they do most of the checks themselves.
Awesome. And we've actually I've just realized then that we've got the Australian and New Zealand police checks on this slide, which won't necessarily be relevant. It would be a USA police check, which the process will be different, obviously, than the Australian and New Zealand in terms of the cost. But yeah, just you can disregard the Australian New Zealand police checks. You won't need those unless you've lived in Australia and New Zealand, for over than 12 months in the past 10 years. Which potentially, if you've signed up to the Australian webinar, you might do Oz first and then go to go onwards to the UK afterwards. So this may be relevant, perhaps, but yeah, you can disregard that bit there. Cool.
Perfect. Okay, and I guess what the big question is why even sign up with ANZUK? Like what is this company? Why go with it? So I know Tyler and I both kind of are quite passionate about ANZUK. We both started with ANZUK as teachers, where you guys kind of are right now, and then we've kind of transitioned into like actually hands-on with the company. But there's just so much that the company offers. It's more than just let's find you a school. There's way more to it, more that the company can offer you. So there's the blog posts, which are you can read about people's stories, people who have gone over and what they've experienced, the fun things that they've gotten to do, and the personal growth that they've made. You also can read on those blog posts, how people have transitioned as far as the curriculum and getting advice on like finding places to live, and what trips to go on and what things to sign up with. So there's a lot on that blog post, more than just people's stories, but there's things that you can learn to help you with that transition. We also have LMS, which is our online portal. The first time I opened LMS, it was quite overwhelming because there's just so much on it. But it basically is just professional development certificates that you can take. So anything from autism awareness or trauma-informed training is on there, as well as other little things that will help you with your transition to the UK curriculum. So that's LMS. None of it's required. You don't have to take any of them. That's why I was a little overwhelmed the first time I saw it, but it is there for you. I've added a couple of those to my CV. So coming back to Canada, I've actually been able to add that I have trauma-informed training and I have autism awareness because of LMS. We have our Facebook groups, which is kind of what Tyler was talking about with the community. Those things are actually really, really great. My buddy and I, we found people on those groups that we thought we had things in common with. We created a group chat away from ANZUK, just like kind of us educators, and we were able to bounce things off each other about, where did you guys find a place to live? Does anybody need a place to live? Or somebody to live with, and some of them have become my best friends. So, I traveled through Italy with a few of them, and some of them transitioned into the office as well with ANZUK. So you never know, your best friend might be waiting on that. It feels a little, second nature when you're messaging somebody random off the internet, but the Facebook groups do really help. The information packs, they'll come at the right time. We don't want to overwhelm you with everything all at once, but the information packs will be things like, where to find a place, what apps to be using, what budgets to be setting, what bank accounts and phone companies to be going with. Again, there's so much to move abroad, but we try to give you the right information packs at the right time, at the right pace, so that you're not overwhelmed. And then there are the events. So once you get to London, or wherever you go in the UK, there's going to be lots of events, lots of really great kind of parties. They go down to pubs and they do fun things, fun activities. They try to get you out and meet other educators from all over around the world. Now, there is 360 support. So that means that you'll either be talking to me, my manager, Jillian, or you'll also be talking to somebody on the ground in the UK. So it just means that you have help within your own time zone, so you're not like too stressed about that. But then also you will have help in direct contact with you from the UK, not just the compliance, but somebody who's also has the relationships with the schools that you can talk to personally. Yeah, and then there's the community. So it's just kind of like it's trying to be as much of that relationship piece as possible. We're all teachers. We're all kind of from the same blood. That's why I love ANZUK is, Tyler's moved away from the classroom, but he's still a teacher at heart. We have lots of people who are former educators, and that's where just a big group of teachers helping other teachers try to get to travel abroad. So that's the big thing with ANZUK is creating that community of teachers to help all of us move abroad, have great fun, and be able to create lifelong experiences.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty much the webinar, everyone. So really exciting to see everyone on the call. I know it's great to have a few people from across different parts of the states, which is awesome. So I know we threw out the questions before, and I know Kimberly had a question around the HPI visa and the healthcare surcharge cost. But yeah, essentially, if anyone had any questions, feel free to either post them into the chat, or yeah, feel free to take your Yvonne, we've got a question here.
Hey. Hi, I actually know an HPI visa before this webinar, and I was looking into it, and I feel really grateful of joining this webinar. I have a short question. As you have mentioned, I'm not a US citizen. I have an English bachelor's degree in UC Berkeley, and have a master's degree in education from University of Pennsylvania. So regarding the English placement, or do I need to take any test to prove my English skill, or my teaching experience teaching English would be enough? Or
yeah,
I'm not sure about that.
Great question, Kim. That's right, Kimberly. I would just read Kimberly's name. Yvonne, sorry. Yeah, so you need to sit. It's called a SELT, so it's a secure English language test. And essentially, I'll post a link into the chat as well that you can refer back to after this. And essentially, you just need to provide that, and it needs to be just from a certified provider. And there's a list of providers on the UK Gov website that you can complete that English language test. So that would be something which I personally haven't done that test for any of the providers, but yeah, the links which you can follow through. Hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to be able to go through and sit out that test online and then go from there. Hopefully that helps, Yvonne. We did just have a question from Denise, who posted it directly to me, but I'll try and read through it. So attending a program in Italy this summer. I didn't want to be flying back and forth because of the cost. My question is it possible to apply from the for the HPI visa through the US embassy in another country, or can I do it from a country where I have a legal residence? That is an exceptional question. Spencer, you are familiar if you need to be in the USA to apply for the visa or not? I know you can do it from overseas, as in like you have to do it from outside the UK.
So I believe it would be similar to our youth mobility visa, which I know we have had Canadians who have been teaching in Australia and then want to jump up from Australia straight to the UK, and they can still apply. It's mostly online kind of an application. We do have a visa support team through ANZUK that will help you with the HPI applications and those processes. So that would be something that I would I'll ask them as soon as we're off the call just to guarantee. But I do believe you can apply even if you aren't in the States at that moment, because you're just using your US credentials essentially.
Yeah, good question though, Denise. Awesome. Well, if anyone else has any of the
is it okay if I unmute?
Yes, 100%. You go.
So based on placement, right, are they looking at like current credentials that we have in the States, and then would they place us based on that, or is it kind of like there's like more freedom of like choosing different subject matters, or or grade levels at that?
That's a phenomenal question, Kimberly. I think that's one of my favorite things about teaching in either Australia, New Zealand, or the UK is you actually have a lot more agency to kind of jump around a little bit. Back here in Canada, I'm not certified to teach in a pupil referral unit or what you call it, alternative provision. I'm not qualified to teach in that here in Canada, but I was able to do that in the UK because they need a little bit more teachers, or they're in higher need of teachers. So you absolutely can jump a little bit outside of what you're normally qualified to teach. My buddy who I went over with, he actually went from a secondary biology teacher down to being a primary. He taught grade 4 while he was there. So it's kind of just up to you and your consultant in the office. They can work with you in finding the right roles. Obviously, if you're going to take a long-term position, the principal who you're being hired by will want to make sure that you actually are like competent at whatever you are teaching. So, for myself, I wouldn't probably pass in a biology classroom. So a principal is probably not going to hire me for that. But if it's something that you are, you're more than comfortable in teaching, and you want to try it, and it's not something on your certificate, absolutely you can try. Whether that be special needs or anything like that, you can try outside of your normal qualifications.
Thank you. And
No
then,
worries.
so I'm still trying to like wrap my mind around what this would look like. And then in terms of like my current contract and, just thinking ahead. So then, if I'm not decided yet, I have the liberty to just kind of like reach out in the near future once I kind of get all that settled. I think that's what I'm understanding, right? That I can it doesn't have to be at the beginning of the term. I can like look in later or even perhaps next school year, but it has to be within the 5 years of having that, the degree granted by the university, correct?
Spot on. Yeah. So you can go at any point. Like if you're, can believe it's like if 2024 is a little bit too soon and you're thinking, end of the mid to end of 2024, maybe even 2025, like it's not like, moving states in the USA, like you are going to, I shouldn't say the other side of the world, because obviously the States, the UK, it's a little bit closer. For me in Australia, it is the other side of the world, but yeah, you can go at the right time for you, Kimberly, and that might be, next year, or it might be the following. Spencer will be able to follow up with you on that, but yeah, whenever suits you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I definitely, I'm talking to educators who are going next year and educators who are going in 3 years. It's kind of whatever's best for you. That's what ANZUK is. It's just trying to support you have the best possible opportunity.
Amazing. Well, we can still throw to a few more questions, but we just want to go to the final slide and I guess, say a big thank you for everyone for tuning in. Really exciting to see, people from the States looking to make that journey, or educators, I should say, from the States looking to make that journey over to the UK and potentially to Australia as well. I know a few people on the Australian webinar call too. So if you, know anyone, as we mentioned, that's interested in the journey to the UK or to Australia, spread the word. We're really happy to help out any people in your network, any of your colleagues, anyone from universities. So definitely feel free to encourage that. And then, obviously make sure you get back to Spencer in the follow-up and our team as well, and book a call in, and then we can find out, how we can support your journey. And this one, a photo in the bottom left, is actually one of our recent welcome events from February, where I was lucky enough actually to go to the UK to help co-host this event. And we had about 100 educators from across the globe getting welcome into our London office. And it's a really, really fun time. So yeah, make sure you get amongst all of that, whether it's this year, next year, or the following. We'll still be hosting all these fun events and that journey for yourself. It was an exciting one ahead. So if there's any last minute questions for Spencer and I, do let us know. We'll be happy to stay on as long as needed. But if everyone's hopefully got as much of the valuable information as they need, then everyone can go off and have an amazing evening and enjoy the summer. It is winter down here in Australia, so I'm very envious of everyone in the Northern Hemisphere because it's a very cold day out in Melbourne. But thank you everyone for joining for the webinar. It was really, really lovely to see everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. See you later.
And
Bye.
then will you be sending like that, like the recording and all this information to the email that we registered on for this webinar, for the Zoom, I mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. We'll do the webinar recording. We'll probably be able to get that over to you early next week. We'll just have to get our team just to convert it into to put onto YouTube, and then we'll share that. I hope started next week, Monday or Tuesday.
Right. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. Have a lovely day. Enjoy. See ya.